And mime speaks to the heart through tragic and comic situations, but also with the creation of a style. And this was the main problem, is to recreate, because as you said before, mime has a history since the Roman and the Greeks.
Of course.
And you can find it in the Japanese, Chinese theater, in the Indian mudra, in African dance, in, well, I would say in those civilizations, mime had a very sophisticated place in the theater. But only in France, it was in the 19th century with the French Pierrot, that mime had an important style. And then it vanished, lack of schools. And when it has been re-established through Etienne de Croo, who was my teacher at the start, and he was also the teacher of Jean-Louis Barrault, I think that the film Les Enfants du Paradis has shown to the public that there was a tradition of mime in the 19th century, but we couldn't recreate this tradition in the 20s. We had really to recreate a modern form, which does not mean that the pantomime romantique is not valid anymore, but we had to recreate because we lost the grammar, the language of the romantic style. And on the other hand, De Croo was influenced by modern dance, by Roman and Greek statuary, by the ballet russe, by the German expressionism, by ballet Josse, you know, and then his own genius recreated the rudiments of what we call l'art du contrepoint, the counterpoint art. And when I arrived as a pupil of De Croo, being a student of theater too, I recreated the character of Bip, I created a compagnie de mime, and I recreated completely a new form also when I added my own creations, my own style, which was a prolongation of what De Croo did, because De Croo is mainly a great teacher. But I think I was a man of the theater.
Yes.
Because the language has to be confronted with the public. And the language of mime, if you do the butterfly, or the cage, or the mask maker, or David and Goliath, all the repertoire created also through the art itself, created a new grammar. And then we influenced, I say we, but when I arrived in America, there was no mime company at all, except dance was very strong. Yes. And of course, musical and musical comedies and the drama, and of course music. But there was no real mime theater. And today, there's a mime craze in America. But
your own style has changed somewhat, has it not, during the course of your career? The show you're doing now has some new concepts in it, does it not?
Well, I brought to Houston, many of my numbers are completely new. For instance, the concept also, before I did what I call pantomime de style, to create like a pianist or a violinist would do.
That would be style pantomimes.
Variations about a theme. I created style pantomimes to establish all the physical possibilities you can create through the struggle of the visible and the invisible, going against the wind, going upstairs and downstairs, tightrope walker. And then slowly I progressed, the public progressed, and then I went to more elaborated numbers.
Those are not the pantomimes that touch the heart, then? We wait for Beep to do that, I take it.
No, I think those pantomimes touch the heart too, because there were, for instance, the number like the angel I'm doing now, or the tree, are symbolic numbers. They are poems recreated through gestures. And I think the public needs to see the other dramatic aspect, not only the moment where he's entertained, but the moment he can think about and feel like you go to the theater to have visions and images through words. You recreate images and visions, poetry, through movement. And of course you have the Bip character, who is the modern Pierrot of the 20th century, who is struggling in the battlefield of life, playing Don Juan, who is a myth, playing modern and future life, where he struggles with computers, with mechanical stairs, with our modern technology. And he goes back to the cycle of man from the ape age to our time, to the evolution. And we use also projections, we use another dimension. And this would tell me that mime is not only linked to one man. The fact that I play alone, what is a one-man show, I have opened doors to the recreation of a whole mime world when you can have a company which plays mime dramas.
Yes, you mentioned the formation of a company earlier in your career. Have you ever toured or appeared with your company?
I had 12 years my company, and we have played 25 mime dramas. The most famous were The Overcoat by Gogol, Paris which cries, Paris which laughs, The Circus, and so on.
But never in this country, have you?
Yes, I came with The Overcoat in '61 in New York and Chicago and Detroit. I never came here because maybe the public was not ready for it, maybe. But since then, there is a big evolution, and there are in America, as you know, in all universities, there are, in not all, but in some universities, all would be too much. In some universities, there are mime companies, there are mime festivals now starting in America, the Wisconsin Mime Festival, there are mime groups. Here in Houston, you have Mr. Claude Coe,
Indeed, yes.
who was a fencing teacher in my École de Mime in Paris, and he is, having worked with me as a student also, I was his pupil as a fencing, to fence, because I love fencing. And he was my pupil as a mime, and he has created now at the drama department of Houston a mime company, and they are doing very well. And I think this shows the great interest students,
indeed, yes,
young people have
unquestionably,
for the craft of the art of mime, which will become in several years as popular than dance is today.
Well, dance has undergone a terrific explosion in 10 years, and perhaps mime will do the same thing.
I'm sure it will.
You have recently founded a new school of your own, have you not, in Paris?
I have created, with the help of the government for the first time, and especially of La Ville de Paris, which we are subsidized for the first time, we have now in Paris what we call l'École des Mimedrames de Paris Marcel Marceau. In that school, we include not only pantomime, mimedrama, with 3 teachers. I'm the director of that school, of course, but I will teach also. I teach. Now, of course, I'm on tour. But I have established the school that it rules even when I'm outside. We have pantomime, we have classic dance, modern dance, jazz, fencing, acrobatics, and we deplore that Mr. Claude Coe, who was a fencing teacher in my school in '69, '71, and we deplore that we are happy that he's teaching here.
Your loss is our gain,
yes,
as we say in this country.
He was a great fencing teacher also, beside the fact that he's teaching mime now, but he was a great, I would say, teacher, also psychological teacher, a pedagogue. And all these disciplines are very important because mime, creating an invisible world which is concrete, does a little what the art of Zen does.
I guess.
That means a complete integration of spirit and body towards the search of perfection. And this we can have in creating perfection through our instrument, which is our body, through space, through the knowledge of oneself, and of course others, the perception he has from the outside world and the inside world, which he shares with the public, who identifies with the dreams and the hopes and the frustrations and the trauma of life. And so the art of mime, when you can master your body and create the fight of the invisible and the visible, the antagonism of the yin and the yang, the Chinese yin and yang, the forces which make the equilibre of the world. And when we can give this through the dramatic art form of theater, then we create a concept, a style. And this is what the theater
Is this universal in your experience? Does the same rapport exist between artist and audience in France and the United States,
Yes.
in all countries?
I think that mime, like music, like dance, has a language which transcends the barrier of nationality and race. It speaks to the heart of people. You laugh and cry at the same second in the whole world for the same reasons. It's a concept Aristotelian.
Yes.
The Greek concept of what is
Aristotelian,
beautiful or
yes.
ugly, what is, if we play in another planet, I don't know if there would be the same concept of beauty and ugliness, or what, if people will laugh when you slide over a banana peel.
When the time comes, you'll be on the other planets to find out, I presume.
We shall find out.
You find no differences. None of your pantomimes cannot play in certain countries because...
We have been in 5 continents. We have crossed the 5 continents 5 times. Could have been 4 times, but it was 5 times.
Yes.
And if we could have made a tape recorder at that time, people would laugh and cry or be moved at the same second. This is a law which the great actors in silent films knew already. And you know, I was told that Harold Lloyd said, when you want to laugh, you have to have 4 seconds of this, 3 seconds of that. He was making
There's
it
a formula, huh?
Yeah, well, it means that 1 split of second later, you miss the point, nobody's going to laugh.
True.
For tragedy, it's different, because you establish another mood, another style, another timing, another dimension. But for laughing, it's a mechanical fact. You need really first the mechanical system and the audience.
What do you think causes laughter?
That you do situations which are contrary of what the public expects in normal life, which are beyond the normal regulations of behavior.
Yes.
You cannot laugh, make people laugh when you when you play in a desert island.
True.
You see, you need the public. It's a social act, and it's a satire act, and sometimes purely physical. But if nobody is there to watch when you fall down, or you slide, as I said, over a banana peel, nobody's going to laugh.
Not funny, yes.
And
does comedy also have the kind of catharsis that we think of tragedy as having? Does it cleanse the soul of anything? Does it purge us of feelings?
Tragedy?
No, comedy, as opposed to tragedy.
Well,
what does it do for the soul, in other words?
Well, first of all, it relieves the soul. It takes away the tension of the grim reality of life sometimes. Theater has been invented to allow us to dream even in the reality of life. Movies have been invented also. Art in general transcends our life to give us another dimension. And both are important. Like food is important to us
Yes.
to live, or like sports are important to stimulate us. I think that as we have the day and night, as every word has its contrary, every word has its contrary.
I never thought of that, but I
Yes.
suppose that must be true.
This is why tears and laughter are part of life. They are
The yin and the yang again.
Yes, the yin and the yang. And I said, when I mime the wind, I become the tempest. When I mime a fish, I throw myself in the element of water. And I think as we need air to breathe and language to speak, to communicate, we need also to go deep in the roots of our own self, of our existence. And I think that in this way, the Asiatic people have brought very much to us, Japanese, Chinese, Indian, because they have shown us that the concentration of man are very important to help him to recreate life. And this concept has existed maybe in the Middle Age, has been existed as long as men live. He had the need to recreate life and to create art forms. But every time we have to be reminded that the past, the present, and the future are necessary to bring evolution to the world. And that a man who tries to cut his roots from the past cannot go to the future.
You're aware of the recent American interest in roots, I think, our historical
It's recent
heritage.
in America.
It
It's
is, yes.
necessary for America, for the survival of the civilization.
You probably understand people around the world better than almost anybody else as a result of your travels and the kind of rapport you have with audiences. I know you're also a great and serious student of thought and culture. Do you think Western civilization is in trouble?
Western civilization is in trouble if they go only to the commercial process of making money and neglecting the important part of art in life or science, which is very important, that money should be used to promote men for the best and not for the worse. I'm not the only one who thinks that. I have millions of people think like me. We are unfortunately not the majority. But in this battle of good and evil,
who's winning today?
The balance. We have to keep the balance, and we have to hope there will be no more wars at all. But I think the economical pressure, the greed, power,
yes,
money, destroys many things when it's used to destroy men instead of enlightening men. It's not only words. I think art is very important. Education and art are very important to create a new kind of man who will, I will not say there will not be death, unfortunately. There will not be injustice. There will always be little injustice. Because Kennedy said once, life by itself isn't just.
John Kennedy.
Yes, he was the first to pay that price. You see?
Say again, life by itself
isn't
not just.
But what we have to struggle for is to overcome through light, violence, destruction. And art can help very much to educate men.
You think we're making progress in that direction?
Yes. And on the other hand, also we regress. When you see all the pornographic films, which have nothing to do with sensuality, because you can make great sensual films, which are beautiful. But when you bring down pornography, it's like Fellini did in Satyricon. When a society is depraved and has no more the ability to transcend life and to feel beauty in poetry, they need crude, terrible...
What would you say pornography as opposed to sensuality
Well,
is?
Pornography is destroying men, showing it into an abject way. It's like the Romans used to cut the hand of a slave on stage,
yes,
to give to the public le frisson. The public could, at the time of the decadence of Rome, the public was no more able to enjoy stylized work. He had to see the crude reality.
Now, the Grand Guignol does it by illusion today.
Yes, but Grand Guignol is illusion. You are right.
Yes.
But you know, they made an experience in France before the Second World War. The public executions were public. There were 2,000 people watching it. If you ask tomorrow to make public executions, you will have maybe 5,000 volunteers.
You really believe so?
Yes, unfortunately. But look, murders and crimes.
They still go on, yes.
Of course. But what we have to fight for is from the start, from the cradle of the child, to give society a possible thing that even if there is injustice, if there is still problems, if they always exist, but that we create a new type of man who will be, where we shall be the majority and not the minority. That's all.
I think civilization can always have hope as long as we have the marvelous art of Marcel Marceau to touch our hearts, our minds, and if I may say our souls.
No,
as well.
Fortunately I'm not alone. We are thousands and thousands of people who, and I speak in the name of all my fellow artists who struggle in life to create that beauty and that poetry.
Thank you for that marvelous statement, and thank you for visiting with us, Marcel Marceau.
Thank you.